Good afternoon, everyone. We're just waiting for a couple of minutes for a few more people to join us, and then we'll kick off. Thank you. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this. If you're in London, it's an amazing, glorious day. Thank you so much for joining us and not being in the park sunning yourself. We have some really important subjects to cover today for charities: achieving data intelligence with Salesforce fundraising. And I'm very pleased to tell you we have a great guest speaker on this webinar today, Jamie Flyman, who currently is the Global Director of Fundraising and Corporate Communications at Justice and Care. He's going to tell us, when I introduce him, a little bit about his charity. But Jamie started his career as an award-winning BBC journalist producer. He then set up a charity for mentoring support for drug and alcohol dependency, which was shortlisted for the Good Guardian newspaper Charity of the Year award. He also led engagement with donor churches around the world. So we are talking to a major important person who's had lots of experience about fundraising. So I'm very glad to introduce you to Jamie, who hopefully has joined us. Jamie, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can certainly hear you, although I can't say that I'm as major as you have made out me to be, so hopefully I will.
You're being very humble. Tell us a little bit about your current role, and obviously you've got this plethora of experience. It's amazing. Share that with some of us.
Yeah, so
Some of that with us, I should say.
Yeah, I guess the common thread in my journey to doing the job that I do now is that I hate injustice, absolutely find it awful. And so my time, whether as a journalist or starting a charity and now fundraising for an anti-trafficking organisation, has been to try and fight injustice and do everything that I can with my skills to do something about it. And so Justice and Care is a relatively unknown charity, but quite amazing frontline work in the fight against human slavery. In the broadest terms, we fight human trafficking in the UK, working alongside police in Europe, in South Asia. We protect vulnerable communities, work with police to rescue victims, bring to justice the criminal networks responsible, and spark systemic change. So work with governments to find ways of, in legislation, in action, on how to combat slavery.
Wow, that's amazing work, isn't it? Really, really amazing work. So you benefited from one of our small charity discount packages that are offered by us, which provides 6 days of paid consulting and 6 days of pro bono volunteer times provided by our Salesforce Supermum. So those of you that don't know us, we have another organization called supermums.org, where we bring mums and dads back into training, but obviously back into the Salesforce ecosystem and IT ecosystem. As it says here, we have 75 charities have been supported with this, and 3,200 hours of pro bono support. I'm Robert Ward. I'm the actual head of business development. I forgot to tell you that at the beginning. But as I said, we work in the charity sector. Super Mums, you can go and have a look at another time. But this is how you started off with us, wasn't it, Jamie?
Yeah, that's right. So to give a bit of context, I joined Justice and Care around 2.5 years ago now, with a remit to grow global income. And what that meant has been overseeing fundraising teams in the UK and building in the US, India and the Netherlands for independent but interdependent charities. And those groups of charities were facing somewhat of a financial challenge. A major donor had pulled out for various reasons, or actually the board had rejected some funding. And so I was brought in to try and build that team and build our financial resilience and build up the structure. And so we were looking for a system that could provide us with a view of fundraising across each of the entities, one that could be installed in each entity, that got over GDPR, but that we could get a common view of what income was going to be coming in. And so we looked around at the options, and the Salesforce was the obvious one, not least because it offered 10 free licenses per entity. But we made a decision that was the best one to go for, and we really haven't looked back since.
That's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. Well done. Many people do start on our small charity package because it's sort of affordable. What we're really trying to do is key ingredients we believe to success is having a strategy, turn your vision into a robust plan with streamlined processes. We don't always understand those processes because we're caught up in the daily delivery of our service. So sometimes it really helps that we can look as an outsider looking into those processes. And obviously one of the most important things to ensure that you're capturing that data. Because again, in our second little block here, impact measurement, how can you define your performance indicators and undertake real-time analysis if you're not capturing that information? So that's why we wanted to do and obviously share our information about data intelligence, because a CRM like Salesforce makes all this extremely intuitive. So you can, as it says here, achieve big data analysis in a very small way that is not laborious. It's very easy. Reporting in Salesforce is a dream. And of course, anything you see, you can visualize into a dashboard. So, people employ our services because of change management, maybe. They're making big changes. They want to either slowly implement change and do things, but a key ingredient, again, is just about making sure that you have surfaced the visibility of your data. So some of the key goals for this are obviously improved financial stability, improved business intelligence, efficiency, stakeholder engagement, improved customer service. Now, if we're capturing that data about possible fundraisers, we're also updating our CRM. So we know the last time we contacted them, what their preferences are, what their likes and dislikes are. All these things can be very easily, and it's not laborious, it's just very simple fields that we can just update through various conversations. We're building a profile of that person who potentially is going to be give us money in some form or fashion, whether it's in kind, whether it's in cash, etc. So I'd like to ask Jamie, through his journey, a few questions. And please, obviously, you can put your hand up if you've got an immediate question, or in the questions section here, just post anything you like. We do have a question section towards the end, but anything you would like to know or would like to answer myself or Jamie directly, please post in there. Thank you. So question one, visualization. What did you want to see from your data that you couldn't before, Jamie, in the sense of you built all these global systems?
Yeah, so I think if we take a step back, at the time when I joined, there were 4 entities that we were going to be fundraising through. 2 of them had a CRM system, but they were completely different and hadn't been updated in reality. And 2 didn't have a CRM system at all. And we needed something that was obviously going to allow us to be GDPR compliant as well.
Yes.
So we had a list of requirements at a high level. And first of all, something that was easy to use. And we had a really simple test for that, which was could I use it? Because if I could use it, anyone pretty much could use it. It needed to be largely intuitive. I'm dreading questions because I'm just not an expert on CRMs, but I can use Salesforce. It helps me do my job. Secondly, something that could be easily implemented in each of the justice and care family organisations. So, we were working across continent, across cultures, and we needed to know that, whether you were using it in India or the UK or Bangladesh, wherever it was being used, everyone could work it out. Something that would grow with us, so that we could use it actually beyond fundraising, which I'll touch on later because we're starting to really do that. And also something that was cost effective. And then more specifically in my role, it's not rocket science for someone interested in fundraising, but I wanted to know what money had come in and from where and from whom, what money we were expecting in through 2 sources. So first, the money that you can pretty much bank on, so your regular giving, for example. And secondly, the income that if we're doing our jobs right as fundraisers, we might expect. So starting to put new relationships, working out what they might give, and working out what the chances are that they would give, and starting to calculate on some of that projection. And I also obviously need to know when the cash is going to come in, because cash flow is important.
Yeah.
And so those were the sorts of things that we were looking at, and also we wanted to start to drill down. And having been over dependent on one particular donor, we wanted to get a broad picture of the income streams and the percentage breakdown of each, so that we could start managing and putting our efforts in the right way.
Great, that's amazing. And that's very true. We find, when we speak to smaller charities or even larger charities, their data is very disparate. It might be in spreadsheets, it might be in Outlook, it might be in Gmail, and therefore we do not have that one source of truth. So putting them all into a CRM system, and as we said, going back to that customization, so we're really drilling down on what motivates our fundraisers. Then we can do clever things as saying like, well, what's the propensity of this person to keep giving? All that data is so vital, and that's why we wanted to do this webinar on data intelligence, because you have that intelligence, you have a far greater chance of meeting your fundraising targets. I am going to share a dashboard view a little later for you, essentially of how you can have one overall view of your income. So we'll be sharing that with you, so stay tuned. Question 2, management. How did you manage your data before and how is it now?
Yeah, so before, as I said, very little infrastructure in place. So the reality was that it was spreadsheets at best, and more likely backs of envelopes. I actually remember trying, whilst we were working out what system to use, writing literally on the back of an envelope, trying to consider what our income might be, what targets might be, and it was helped, I should say, by having a relatively low number of donors, mainly high net worth individuals who were and remain very committed to the charity. So we were able to project at that time with a reasonable level of confidence using the back of an envelope. But it
That's
wasn't,
wonderful.
yeah, it wasn't great, and certainly gave no insight, and it was very, very difficult to then manage and work out what relationships needed, how you needed to nudge people along. Cash flow was almost impossible to predict, and so
Sure.
it's quite different now.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Yeah, and we see that scenario, again, there isn't a central source of data. It's in different silos or different programs. And that really helps that management of our sort of income pipeline, makes that more difficult. And every charity needs that money. It wants to deliver its service. It wants to deliver its program. So we're all focused on how best can we do that. It's a very good point. Okay, our next question for you, Jamie, is analytics. How do you see and analyze your data now in Salesforce?
Yeah, so today the process is so different and the team is so different. So Salesforce has become a daily tool for my team. And we're also actually using it more widely in the organization for case management. And also we're just about to launch grant management through it, which is exciting. We've automated a whole lot of processes or connected it with other parts of our system. So for example, we use Google Mail, and I can connect by Google Mail. So the second I send a follow-up email to someone, I can log it on to Salesforce. We also automate it fully through MailChimp, DonorBox, which is our payment gateway, and other things. In terms of how we see and analyze, we use dashboards as our headlines. So those are presented to the board on a regular basis. We look at three things very specifically, which is the money that's come in, the money recurring income that we can almost bank on, and thirdly what we expect to come in. But we also go far beyond that. So we go into reports, and we're constantly looking at the reports we're able to generate. For example, just a week or two ago, as a team, I've gathered the fundraising team together, and as we speed towards our year end, we started looking at the anticipated income report, so that we could drive our activity. Who needs to be chased? Who are the people that we need to get a coffee in with, or make an ask of? Are we going to hit those our targets? And if we're not, then what activities can we undertake to make sure that we do? And we use that in the management of people. So whether it's the main relationship holder with high net worth individuals, or actually whether it's our chairman, chief exec, whoever, we're just making sure that all the time that everyone is taking the right actions. And Salesforce has been invaluable to us. We've probably in the last 3 years quadrupled our income.
Wow.
And an important part of that has been using Salesforce as I guess, as you say, our central truth. That's one of the bits of language that we use, and I'm sure I've probably picked it up from you guys.
Yeah, and you use dashboards as well as your reports in your system.
Yeah, so dashboards is the first thing that we go on to. And for me, it's the headlines. You have to understand what's behind the headlines, but dashboards are absolutely brilliant at just giving a snapshot. And we use those, as I said earlier, in board reports, for example, just so that we can give an overview of how we're doing.
Yeah. What's also good about Salesforce and its dashboards is you can share those by email. So maybe to your stakeholders, your trustees, providing they have some sort of access generally to Salesforce, you can once a week send them an email and they get a snapshot of what's happening in the company.
And I
which
didn't
is
know that.
more,
So I'm now going to set
okay.
that up as a system. So that's good news to know.
Yeah, yeah, you can subscribe people to reports, so you can also send them a summary in a report. But what's very attractive, especially for ambassadors, for trustees, people at a higher level, they're not interested in the finer details. They just want an overview. So therefore, we can share that dashboard view. I'm going to share a dashboard with you shortly, so that you can basically see that. And partly you've sort of answered question 4, but that data intelligence, how has this influenced your relationship with stakeholders? It's changed obviously vastly, simply
Yeah.
because you've grown quadruply over a short period of time. So
Yeah, so I think it's improved things on a number of levels. So, who are our stakeholders? Well, they're first and foremost our donors. So
yeah,
it means that we can very easily understand where donors are at, their preferences, when they last gave, what impact their giving has made at one level. So when money is due, so when we'd expect them to make an annual payment, for example, can all be driven through Salesforce, which is really helpful because it informs us. I think the board are much more cited, and that's vital because it helps them to make strategically important decisions, and we can guide them in that and make obviously recommendations to them. And I think they feel much more informed, and the professionality of what Salesforce can do makes us look good as an executive team.
of course,
As a senior
yeah,
leadership team, we're able to make much more informed decisions about budgeting. So
yeah,
just a week or two ago, we went through our annual first cut of the cloth process. What are we expecting to come in? What's in the bank at the moment? And what's
yeah,
our best
sure,
guess on income? And that is really improved by Salesforce because we can say stuff with so much more certainty. And
yeah,
personally, it helps determine our fundraising strategy. Where are the
yeah,
gaps in funding, for example, for specific projects we might go after for trusts and foundations? Where do we need to, say, broaden our base? Where are we in danger of over reliance? And I think with my team, it just allows much greater management focus. And beyond the management that I do, I think it helps the team manage their own caseload. It helps with that
sure,
self-management, and holding themselves accountable to what they have to do.
yeah, that's phenomenal. So after all that, we would look at what's the result of what impact, what difference has data made to your organization? You've really clarified this, but if you were to summarize, the impact is great, obviously, because your service delivery is now more prolific simply because you have more funds. True?
Yeah, so I think Salesforce has certainly helped us get more funds because it's given that central truth. I think I talk about I was blind, but now I can see,
Mm-hmm.
and that you need to know where you are when you're developing any strategy. That's absolutely critical. And I think more to that, when we looked at options for which fundraising platform to go through, we looked at options which only offer fundraising all the way through to Salesforce, which allows you to do so much more. And we went in thinking all we needed was a fundraising platform. But now I look an absolute genius for choosing Salesforce because it's been able to be used in so many different ways.
Yeah,
And as I said, we're just about to start grant management through it, as in grants that we send out the door to partner organisations that work with us, but also case management, as we deal with survivors of trafficking.
yeah,
And what we eventually hope to do is be at a place where that we can bring all of that data together. So, for example, we can do very specific reports in due course about the difference a donation has made. That maybe one day we can create the system, and I realise that it's Salesforce is able to do it, where people will be able to go on and see the impact that they're giving has made. And by choosing Salesforce, we've allowed a system to grow with us. And so we just think we've made the best decision. And Salesforce as an organization are wonderful to work with. I love some of the way that they've put corporate giving at the heart of what they do. So the temporary licenses, allowing charities to grow to a certain size, and then when they become sustainable, and be able to pay for licenses themselves, which we've just started to do. And so it's a really, really wise approach.
And those licenses, for everyone listening, are heavily discounted.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is great. I also think one thing that you've done, which is great, and I was so happy to see that development in your organization, was that you've chosen some tools on your website that take donations, but also integrate with Salesforce so that you're automatically updating a stakeholder or a donor's record. You have a record, obviously, automatically. There's no manual, very little, should be very little manual input, in the sense this is running automatically in the background. It's taking money. You can do reoccurring donations, and it's updating Salesforce. So you've got no manual entry into a system. That's surely been great for you.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. The more that can be automated, the better, for a whole host of reasons, as we all know. So we've integrated DonorBox, which is the platform that we use for online donations.
Yeah.
We've integrated MailChimp. We're doing gift aid claims through Salesforce. So as much as possible, we automate systems. And yeah, of course, there are times where you have to do it manually, but it really, really is simple to use, and with the right support, you can get it working for you very effectively. And not only, like, we were delighted to use you as an organization to get us started, but we've also done a few projects through Salesforce themselves. So a lot of the Salesforce employees can offer pro bono time to help organizations develop the system as it goes on.
Great, great. I've actually shared that DonorBox URL with you all in the chat window, because this is worth looking at. It's a good consideration. It's sort of putting your fundraising on steroids, that is all happening in the background. You don't have to worry about it. All you have to be concerned about is what is the data that's coming in. Does it meet your targets? Does it meet your expectations? Which is superb. So, okay. I'm sure there's going to be some questions. I would like to just pause my screen for a sec, go to a typical dashboard. So I'm just going to go back to a dashboard. So this is a dummy dashboard. It's like a demonstration dashboard, but it will show you a typical snapshot. Hopefully you can all see this. I believe you should be able to. Yep. So we're looking in Salesforce here. So a dashboard, get over here, we've got a tab of different dashboards that we can add here. But this is right on my home page. So when I actually arrive in Salesforce, I'm getting a top level view of my income. We've taken it back here for calendar year, or it could be your financial year, 2016, 17, 18, 19. So we can see the average donation, and that would obviously could be per stakeholder, per household, etc. It's giving me a running, I can actually pop out some of these to have a far deeper look at some of these. When there's lots of information, we obviously want to, there might be some limitations for me sharing this fully because we're on GoToWebinar, but you get the drift. Let me scroll down. Then we can look at top 25 household gifts this year. What stakeholders are really, what should we do? How can we reward them? How can we thank them? Could they give us more money? We have all that data sort of intelligence here. So this is very simple. Normally we would have other graphs here basically showing us, if we have a target, we might have a gauge chart that would show us, our income for this quarter or a donation should be 100,000. Where are we at? How far away are we from that target? So that's just to show you a high level view. Of course, to make up all that information would be in someone's contact record. So we could drill down into a person and basically look at their records, see where they live, etc. This person hasn't given any money, but you can drill down direct. Sometimes we can always predict their propensity to give. So this person hasn't given anything, so it's 0 at the minute. But if he started to give, so we're working here just with dummy data, just for the purpose of demonstration. But if this person was a real candidate, a real stakeholder, we can see that their interactions with the system have told us that their propensity to give or keep giving is 80%. So we know that they're worth basically investing some time in to bring them forward. So let's just go back to our presentation. Let me check if you've asked if there's any questions in there. If anyone has any questions, if not, I will go on. Hopefully you can see everything. So one thing is how to improve fundraising efforts with Salesforce. So really in summary, automation. So that is making things happen in the background. So a record is automatically updated, like our scenario with DonorBox, that this integration from our website into Salesforce is automatically creating records of those donation amounts against the right contact. We have reports and dashboards. So the feeding of a dashboard is done by the data from reports. So firstly, you create a report, which is highly intuitive in Salesforce and very easy to do. That's one great thing with the system, is that it's very intuitive, it's very easy to use. You don't need, a very experienced IT person to operate it. So therefore, your adoption amongst users using the system should be very good. Customer journeys. Okay, what is the journey? Do we have an email or marketing automation connected to Salesforce? Are we watching the journey of that fundraiser? Are the pledges, how do we convert those pledges into cash, etc. Data analysis is really similar to reports and dashboards, simply because we're capturing that customer data. And of course, we may have payment integration, which is created through the automation, something like DonorBox. So they're really our next steps. We need to look at these sort of 6 important points and try and see where we're at. Is the customer taking a journey with us? I mean, I worked on a project with cancer research a few years ago, and they tried a new model which was built upon Salesforce of how to interact with donors, with supporters, and they found there's a greater personal interaction with donors on a more personal basis enabled them to raise more money. So I think that's a really good point. People don't always want to just receive emails. So obviously, as a consultancy, we have other services. Setting up your Salesforce, advising on your Salesforce. If you already have Salesforce, then you may be able to join our 6-month virtual Salesforce charity admin course. Become an administrator, become certified on the platform. Like Supermums, Salesforce has an amazing ecosystem that spans the globe. So we encourage people, to skill up, learn what you can do within Salesforce, etc. Power up your CRM strategy. I mean, you can just book an hour for CRM coaching just for a small fee that you see here. This may be all you need. Maybe you're fine with Salesforce, maybe you're moving forward, but maybe you need a little more help, and that's where we would like to help you. So sort of moving ahead, we've got some webinars coming up. So you see Jamie's lovely face here, and thank you, Jamie, so much for being on this call and giving us your direct experience. We've got some other ones coming up, on impact management. So you should have received emails on these. Please try to join. As a final word from myself, I would say, you know, we've seen the transformation. We've worked with hundreds of charities. We've seen the transformation, how a simple system which starts off being free to you guys can change the whole dynamics of your business. Obviously, justice and care are such a great example of that, and that's why we wanted Jamie to come and speak. So as a final word, I'm going to hand over to Jamie just to summarize what he thinks the message you should be left with at the end of this webinar.
A good question. I think the message for me is that systems can really help us as fundraising experts, and I don't know a better system than Salesforce to give real insight, or to help with our insight into donors and making that work to our great effect.
Yeah, that's great. That's so true. As I said, it's easy, intuitive, and at the beginning free until you get more donations. If it helps you raise your fundraising, get more donations, then you need more staff. Okay, you might have to pay for a few licenses, but it's such a great way to start. So again, Jamie, thank you so much for being on this webinar with us.
Thanks so much.
For everyone listening, if you want to know more information, please reach out to me. My details are here, Robert at Economic Change. You should be on our mailing list. That's how you got into this webinar. So you can reach out to any of the staff. But if I can help you, advise you, show you some more demos, please get in touch. I'm just checking that we have no more questions. I don't think no one's asked any questions today, so maybe we did a good job. Maybe you're happy very much with the information we've shared with you. There's a lot more. I could do webinars every day for 8 hours a day. There's so much to show you. But of course, the system is large. You only actually take bits that you need. And as Jamie said, then suddenly you realize you need something else. You don't need to go to another system. It's there on the platform, marketing, you know, building custom areas that manage different processes. If you have a lot of information in spreadsheets, the end, Salesforce is the end of spreadsheets. You just bring that data into Salesforce and then have one central source of truth. And there, I thank you very much for joining us on this wonderful sunny day. Enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy your weekend, and please reach out to me if you need anything further. Thank you again, Jamie.
Thanks so much.
Speak to you soon. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye-bye now.